Our determination as journalists to be unbiased is endangering American democracy. Journalists should not be impartial about whether America's current form of government, and with it the free press, survive. We can do this without compromising our core principles. But we need to be honest with each other and with the community that the rise of authoritarianism and political violence is not politics as usual. I think that local journalists are best positioned to break through the polarization that exists, and in doing so, defend American democracy. It begins with clearly acknowledging the stakes, and then relentlessly covering the extremism and the authoritarianism taking root at the local level. It's being done by people in this room now. I'd shout out CCM and Arc Valley Voice for doing fantastic work on this over the last couple of years. This is uncomfortable work because it brings accusations of bias, and it brings threats of violence against journalists and against their families. But this is the essential work of our time. And local journalists are best positioned to paint a picture of rising extremism and authoritarianism that is not just seen at the national level, but is beginning to become embedded in our community. From militias that are well connected to powerful political leaders in Colorado, to efforts to delegitimize our elections here in this state, to the spread of disinformation daily. As journalists, we should also acknowledge that sitting this one out, letting some other journalist or some other media outlet cover these threats to American democracy is not an act of impartiality or editorial discretion or resource management. That is a decision to enable those threats against democracy. It would be as if a local TV station decided that they were just not going to cover a wildfire that was racing towards homes and people. It is okay to be anti-wildfire, and it is okay to be pro-democracy. I should say I really appreciate that you have chosen to include a local commercial television news journalist in this conversation today, because it often seems that the expectation within journalism, perhaps within the community, is that the serious journalism is going to be done by legacy print outlets or their digital forms, or perhaps some excellent niche publications that are serving more of a premium audience, as opposed to broadcasters. That local TV reporters are mainly going to cover car crashes and cat fashion shows and regurgitate the serious news reporting that's first done somewhere else. I'll say when I look back at the history of broadcast journalism on the local level, I have a difficult time defending our track record. But I know that we in commercial TV can do more to increase civic participation and awareness, and some of us are trying really hard to do it. It begins by no longer being actively corrosive to the fabric of our communities. For too long, much of local commercial TV news operated on a fear-based model. That was the incentive to watch. It was fear. It convinced Americans to fear their neighbors, to fear people that they perceived as the other, even fear what was in their refrigerator. Something in there will kill you, we'll tell you tonight at 10. This litany of tragedy news model of telling people the 10 worst things that happened in Colorado today, plus sports and weather, it's not simply outdated. It is actively harmful to our community. And most importantly, at this moment, it ignores the larger shared threat looming that impacts every person in our communities. To hold on to the trust advantage, which is currently enjoyed by local journalists, we also must be willing to engage with our community, with their criticisms and their suggestions, to do it on a one-to-one level because we are their neighbors, and because, frankly, the national media does not engage with people like that. And in addition to private conversations, I think it's also crucial that we have those conversations in public, be seen doing it, so that people know that that engagement is welcomed. That is going to draw critics, fine. That's going to draw trolls, if you want to say. That's fine too. I think engaging with those folks is a great way to get to know them before they're sitting on your local school board or elected to Congress. The future of my corner of the business, local commercial broadcast journalism, is going to be determined in part by whether we can meet this critical moment. Our role 5 years from now may be determined by how useful we are to our community in doing hard-edged accountability journalism daily at this time when they need us to rise above our fear of criticism and our addiction to car crashes and house fires and cover what really matters most, whether American democracy and the free media with it will survive.